Okay, welcome back. So we are getting on with the next session, which of input, which is on connecting smartness with sustainability in policy and urban data management. And we have here 3 speakers already waiting for you all to share with you their perspectives about this particular topic. And may I just quickly introduce you a few of the briefly the speakers. Here we have Mr. Christian Walter, founding partner of SDGX. Then we would have Mr. Dino Fitriza, climate reality leader from the Climate Reality Project, and Mr. Ari Muhammad, country manager from the local governments for sustainability ICLEI. So I would hand over one after the other the time for presentation to you, and I will start with Mr. Christian. Mr. Christian Walter. So you have 10 minutes, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Mira. Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here today. Let me just start sharing my screen with you so you can actually see the small presentation that I have. So when maybe I give you a brief introduction of what I actually do or what we actually do as SDGX, and then a couple of words on how we approach smart city projects and what we mean or what we are looking at when we speak about data, particularly in terms of innovation ecosystems. So SDGX basically is an investment firm, so we don't really come from the policy side of things or the government side of things. We invest in tech startups, most often in Europe and Australia, and we help them to enter Southeast Asian markets per se. For that, we work with a couple of universities and have different offices in Bangkok, in Singapore, Sydney, here in Berlin, myself. And we try to basically bridge this gap, similar to this project, Berlin-Jakarta, where we think that there's a lot of things to learn from each other, and there are lots of opportunities actually to do so. And all the investments we do have to address the SDGs, in particular actually climate, at this point, because we think that is the most urgent call that we have to answer at the moment. So when we talk about what we do and how we do this, it's very easy to say, well, we invest in companies, but when we want to actually create lasting and positive change, then we have to take more of I would say, a systems perspective on things. And this is, at least from my point of view, evolves around the idea of convergence. So when a lot of different ideas converge and come together, and we can assemble actually projects from different perspectives that address all kinds of stakeholders, and we address them around an urgent problem, then we have really something that can work and that can have a positive impact. Because we have to not only think about financial impact, and as an investor, obviously I have to do this, but it's not more important than the positive impact it should have on people, and at this point as well on the planet, obviously. And so we have to really take all the kind of stakeholders into account, and there are models like Triple Helix, obviously, most of you probably are aware of, that have been actually taking this since the 90s and have done a lot of academic work around this. And so from that perspective, when we look at smart city developments, we obviously look at international project sourcing and that we can help our companies that we invest in or other companies to actually go into. We have large-scale project access usually, and we always have to go to actually improve the well-being of the people within the city or the region we are working. And how do we do this? So from I would say almost academic perspective, we look into local innovation ecosystems, and a lot of the things we do are based around what the MIT D Lab has actually done around the innovation ecosystems with purpose in mind. And before we usually start a project, we look at what does the fabric of a local ecosystem actually look like, and what are the actors doing, how can we match them together on a local perspective, but also internationally. Why is it important that it's also an international look on it? Because if you have policies in place, let's say to attract startups, for instance, but you cannot compete with the regional neighbors, for example, then startups will not come, right? So startups for us is very important, obviously. And one of the things, for instance, Berlin has excelled in is actually addressing this, right? There's startup stipendiums and so forth. And hence you can see that Berlin is by far the most important ecosystem in Germany, but also at this point, probably in Europe. And that's only possible if you take actually a local and international approach. And sometimes the local approach might actually not be enough to do this. And I've seen this, unfortunately, in a couple of regions where we try to work with governments that only adopted the local approach, which does not reflect the global necessities. And we bring them together, all those people, by mapping an ecosystem. And as I mentioned, this is mostly based on MIT D-Lab research. The model is relatively simple. So you have a purpose in the center. And in our case here, these are the SDGs. For us as an organization, these are the SDGs. And you assemble basically actors from different areas around this, bring them together to solve this purpose. There are enabling environments, obviously, and there are resources that we have to bring to the table. And for us, we are the person who can sometimes fund this, but we can also bring knowledge in. We can bring external actors in and so forth. We can connect people, basically, and advocate around this. But the most important part is that we actually have the purpose and that we then identify the data, and data in that sense for us is really ecosystem data. Players, actors, what do they do, how do they interact, and enable them to act together or solve problems together towards this purpose. So in this case, data is not any IoT data, it's not anything fancy. It goes really down to, the simplest level it is, what is someone doing and how can we actually collect this? And we have a method for this and a taxonomy based on the MIT lab and how we actually do this. An example of projects that we have done in this space is, for instance, the Green Marine Technology project. That's translating the problem that ports, particularly the ships in the ports, are polluting the environment, unfortunately. But in the case of Singapore, it's actually a very, very important factor for the whole city, for the whole country, in fact, right? So it's economically extremely important. Singapore's port is the second largest in the world, as far as I know. So we try to make this greener in a sense and have looked into actually helping companies to go in and decarbonize the Singapore marine sector as a whole. We work with Nanyang University on this, Nanyang Technology University, other venture capital firms. Obviously, the port itself, the Singaporean government is involved, not only through the university, but also through other means. And we are able to then give grants to companies and do test bedding. So we can do things that have not been proven to work yet, but actually go into the market. And then we can look into how can we use this kind of data and, for instance, completely electrify a port or make it more efficient and so forth, and eventually then decrease the carbon footprint of the whole operations. And that's very, very straightforward. This is very, on the other hand, very comprehensive because the port is so large, but obviously it's smaller than a whole city. So it's a subsector that it's easier to manage for us. A second example that I think is extremely interesting, and I think a lot of cities will try to go this way, is the Smart Living Lab in Newcastle, Australia, with whom we work right now to our technology solutions and actually find business development opportunities for the city itself. So what has Newcastle done? Newcastle is an old mining town, basically, in New South Wales. And Newcastle is facing really a transition away from mining and resource-intensive industries. And so how can you then rejuvenate almost the city is the question for them. And they actually thought, okay, we need data. We need to see what is happening in the city. We need to collect a lot of information around infrastructure. And so they deployed a smart city living lab throughout the whole city by installing on lighting poles different sensor units to aggregate and collect all data around weather, UV, gas, whatnot, right? Any kind of data you can really get with the sensor, they can get. And hope to actually try to make the city smart this way. They have developed a platform that aggregates all the data and have opportunities for, or give opportunities to corporates, to startups, to anyone really, to actually access this data warehouse, if you want, or this data pool, and then build their solution on top of that. Now, the cool thing around this is obviously that the infrastructure is there. The questionable thing then is, how do you actually create something out of this? You know, just because you have data doesn't mean that it's necessarily actionable or that there are solutions. You just basically are able to facilitate something. And this is right now the issue that we have and that we are working on with them. And this goes back to actually finding also new business models, if you want, for the city itself. So it's really looking into what can we do with the data that benefits citizens, that benefits the corporate sector, but also what can the city actually do with this, and maybe even create income streams beyond tax or other incomes, right? So what can we do with the digital infrastructure? And that's what we are doing with them. And yeah, so since I only have 1 minute, I'll leave it at this. But I think it gives you an idea of where we are at in our project. And yeah, I hope you will have, or we will have a follow-up discussion on this as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Christian, for sharing. I see very much there's also quite an interesting point that we will take up. Okay. So I will just directly proceed now for the time's sake to our next speaker, to Padino. Padino Fitriza would and if I may also introduce you. So Padino is a climate reality leader from the Climate Reality Project, and today is going to share much about his initiatives. So the floor is yours, Padino.
Okay, thank you, Ibu Mira. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Dino Fitriza. I will share my screen. Okay. Can you see my screen, Bu Mira?
Yes, we can see your screen.
Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Dino Fitriza. I'm a climate reality leader, but I also as a manager of environmental pillars at SDG Secretariat DKI Jakarta Province. As mentioned before, we are talking about sustainability. So for this event, I will present about sustainable development goals in DKI Jakarta Province. So it's about Jakarta. I will skip this slide. So DKI Jakarta is capital city of Indonesia. There are many people live here. As a big cities, we have also many problems and many opportunities. All the problems and opportunities in Jakarta can also relate it to the Sustainable Development Goals or SDGs. About SDGs itself, in Indonesia we have our National Action Plan based on Presidential Regulation Number 59 in year 2017, and then in DKI Jakarta Province we adopt the National Action Plan to Governance Regulation Number 156 in the years of 2018 about SDGs Regional Action Plan. So in this Regional Action Plan, the highlights of the documents will be about in SDGs we must involve non-state actors by doing the cooperation with the communities, with the philanthropy and business, with academics, and also with governors. And also highlights of the Regional Action Plans about SDGs financing. This is the documents of Regional Action Plan or Rencana Aksi Daerah RAD TPB SDGs DKI Jakarta. These documents can be downloaded in the SDGs DKI Jakarta website. in this documents, we have 253 indicators. If we compare to global indicators, that we have 232 indicators in global SDGs indicators. Why we have 253 indicators? It is because in DKI Jakarta province, we make some proxy indicators related to global indicators. So that's why we have 253 indicators compared to 232 indicators in global SDGs indicators. So based on these 253 indicators, we divide the indicators into 4 pillars: social pillars, economic pillars, environmental pillars, and law and governance pillars. So based on the regional action plan, each year we monitor all the indicators and also governors' activities and also non-state actors' activities, and all the indicators and achievement by the DKI Jakarta province, whether it's from governance or from the non-state actors, it will be published in the yearly report of SDGs DKI Jakarta achievement. For for this year, we already done the documents. We can download the 2019 SDGs achievement in the SDGs DKI Jakarta website in this link, sdgs.jakarta.go.id. So based on that indicators, we also have problems because not all the indicators that we can get the data. So based on the 250 indicators, we have 46.96% indicators. From these indicators, there are also some indicators that need attention. It just means there are 20.16% indicators need attention. So it means some indicators that cannot be achieved. So there needs some improvement in that specific indicators. So how we manage and collect data? The data itself came from many agencies, also from ministries, and also from reporting from non-state actors. So each year, we conduct some data collecting. We invite agencies, we invite NGOs, non-state actors, business, philanthropists, etc., and we ask for the data, and then we put that data into our systems, and we publish it into the website of SDGs DKI Jakarta. So about how the data and also digital revolution can achieve SDGs. So in 2019, UNSDSN Sustainable Development Solution Network have published 6 SDGs transformation, and number 6 it tells about digital revolution for sustainable development. So if we talk about SDGs transformation and SDGs and COVID in DKI Jakarta, as mentioned before by Bapak Yudis, DKI Jakarta also have many applications that also contribute to achievement of SDGs goals. For example, we have Jack Wi-Fi, where DKI Jakarta province provide free Wi-Fi access points to the citizen of DKI Jakarta. If we put it into the SDGs indicators, it is related directly to goals number 9 and goals number 17 about access of internet to the citizens. But at the same time, if we provide free Wi-Fi or free internet access to the citizens, at the same time, it also can relate it to the achievement of goals number 1, goals number 3, goals number 4, goals number 8, and also goals number 11. So that's how we must connect all the data for the information. It can achieve another goals. So we must also invest for the data and also for the interconnection, because it is also good and it can help professional level to achieve many SDGs goals. As mentioned before, for example, Jaki as a super app for DKI Jakarta province. At the same time, Jaki applications also can contribute to many SDGs goals. For example, Jak Pantau it can also help to monitor about flood system. This is related to goals number 6 related to the water and sanitary and also flood system. So that's how we can see that many applications also can contribute to achievement of SDGs goals in DKI Jakarta. This also how we can see that many data is used to monitor many achievements and also related to the COVID situation. We have corona.jakarta.go.id at the same time. It is also contribute to achievement of goals number 3, goals number 11, 9, and 7 at the same time. Also, we have gdcn.jakarta.go.id. This is a platform for collaboration. It is related to goals number 17, where everybody can contribute, whether it's money, other resources, for contribution that help the DKI Jakarta province to combat COVID-19 pandemic also. Also for the information, tomorrow will be GDCN Forum in 2020. Maybe after this event, everybody also can sign up and register for this event because it's also good and give many information about how DKI Jakarta can contribute and achieve SDGs goals also, and how the DKI Jakarta also can collaborate and fight the pandemic, COVID-19 pandemic also. This is how we involve stakeholders. We involve government, philanthropy and business, academic and experts, CSOs and media, and it is contribute together to achieve SDGs goals. For the previous, yes. Okay, I will move forward. So basically for SDGs, we must involve all the stakeholders in DKI Jakarta, because one principle of DKI SDGs is about no one left behind, and also must be inclusive. So that's how we do. That's how we achieve SDGs in DKI Jakarta. So that's it from me, Ibu Mira. You can also contact me to the email and also WhatsApp me at this number. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you much, Pak Dino. It's been interesting to understand what kind of initiatives related to SDGs Jakarta has already been introduced in this aspect. So further, we will proceed with Pak Ari Muhammad, being a country manager of local governments for sustainability ICLEI, and he will present his input with a PDF. And we can see your screen, but everything is already good, so you're good to go.
Okay, thank you. And good afternoon for everyone. Maybe good morning to college in Europe. So thank you for my opportunity to present the topics. And of course, hopefully what I have explained or shared is in accordance with the expectation of the committee and other participation. So I try to divide into seven points. Just as long as we know that the special report of IPCC related to 1.5 degrees say that without a policy and implementation that is coherent and consistent in realizing it, it will result in the sustainability of development in the future. So based on this report, the world community has maybe 12 or 11 years to reduce emissions, So it means that we can reduce the temperature increase of 1.5 degrees or 2 degrees Celsius, so that we are able to avoid the impact of climate change, which will have a tremendous effect on the existing physical and biological system. So if you look at the background, so city residents are responsible for as much as 80% of global greenhouse gas emission. If you look at the presentation today, that is projected to reach uh, more than 57% living in the cities. So in 2035, it will reach 67%. So I think with a business usual approach, economic growth cannot fight the dangers of climate change. So,
Ari,
and
apologies for
yeah,
interrupting. Could you kindly adjust your camera so your face would be fully visible?
sorry, sorry, because my camera is, the position is not right exactly. Or maybe I can turn off the camera.
Okay, as you please, Pa. As you would like. No,
Sorry,
we can
okay,
see you
okay.
better now. Thank you.
Okay, okay, thank you, thank you,
Yes.
thank you. So, to face a challenge, it takes a breakthrough and smart policies. I mean that, for example, enhancing development, reducing vulnerability, and supporting effort toward low carbon growth pathways. Up to 80% of the estimated uh, 80 billions dollars to 100 billions dollars per year in climate change adaptation costs is estimated to be neglected in urban areas. Yeah, the source come from World Bank Economics of Adaptation to Climate Change Study 2008. And of course, still on the still background. On the other hand, of course, we still have a problem with the environmental management. So at the sometimes we have treated by climate change, and at the sometimes we still have a problem with uh, the current situation related to environment. So the city environmental index said that water quality, air quality, and land cover as well is showing progressively lowers. So the situation is we have to improve in the futures. So when we talk about the challenge from the spatial planning aspect, urban problems are there are still many cities that don't meet minimum service standard. So basic services in the minimum service standard, we call it as SPM, Standard Pelayanan Masyarakat Minimum, are mandatory government affairs held by local governments, provincial and city, including regency. So SPM consists of education, health, public works, and special plannings, public housing and residential areas as well, and then peace, public order, and community protection, and the last is socially. So, of course, we have opportunity if we focus on the growth of the middle class. For example, Indonesia middle class is the last 3 years has grown by 27%, from 34% of the population to 42% of the population. I think this is a bigger than the World Bank estimate, which states that the number of Indonesia middle class will reach 80 million people. It means 30% of the population by 2020. And of course, economic from the University of Indonesia, Bapak Ari Kuncoro, Professor Ari Kuncoro, said that the growth of the middle class in Indonesia is an indication of increasing purchasing capacity, and it can make an area move up in class. So, if we are looking at the pointing, the integrating planning between and climate change, I assume that at the situation now we have to integration each other. It's a difficult to us to separate each other if we are taking the response of city or region or national. So instead of reaching out the target, both have the potential to mutually in achieving low carbons and resilient development goals. For example, costs become expensive and it's difficult to determine priorities, especially for regions. We need a mapping of the issues of policy, funding, technology like the previous presenters, and infrastructure as well needed for climate change adaptation and mitigation, which is urgent to do. So the integration of policy strategies and technical adaptation that have been and are being carried out by sectors in a short-term strategic objective, and this is process is part of the development of an institutional and political process framework, development of structures for its funding mechanism, and the exchange of information between stakeholders. So if you look at the modalities, so now a lot of many technical instruments, guidelines provided by the national governments. For example, the technical guidelines for the preparation of SDGs, like the previous mentions, the previous presenter mentioned, SDGs explains are intended to provide guidance for all stakeholders, both at national and regional levels, in preparing the SDGs action plans that is clear, operational, and in line with the national and regional policies. And if we are talking about the adaptation, for example, the stages of formulating climate change adaptation action are carried out through first identification of target coverage of specific areas and or sectors and problem of climate change impacts. And second, preparation of climate risk and vulnerability assessments, and then a formulation of climate change adaptation action option, and then adopted by government to set up priorities for climate change adaptation action, and the last of how to integrate of climate change adaptation action into development policies, plans, or a program. So, and then as long as you know, Ibu Moderator, that the national registry system has been provided by Ministry of Environment, aims to be a forum for managing data and information on action and resources for climate change adaptation and mitigation in Indonesia. So the other modalities is, for example, if we are looking at ICLEI now, where I work with the organization, ICLEI refers to first, there is a commitment from the local government. Yeah, one of the parameter assessed in the existing of strategic plan in their vision and development plan. And furthermore, there is a local NGO which is expected to be a partner in designing, implementing activities. And of course, the presence of NGOs and communities as well as academic will help issue sustainability of the programs. So currently, there is tendency to be involved private sectors because, of course, we are agree with the previous presenters. They should position them as actors capable of creating technology and incorporating the climate change agenda into the business plan to ensure a sustainable business.
Yeah.
So,
sorry.
okay, so we have a climate change policy and regulation. Lot of, I think, the improvement step from the national government. So, but based on my analysis, the existence of variables, parameter indicators that reflect the need of to mainstream SDGs, climate change, and disaster risk reduction, which can be easily used by cities and districts in planning development activities, will help. This means that this variable is able to synergize the need of all development agendas, and otherwise separating the methodology from the agendas will confuse the regions to translate it and funding constraints to the at all. So, and then climate change mitigation and adaptation requires cross-cutting, in addition to the fact that the source of greenhouse gas emissions come from various fields, and the impact of climate change have an impact on the development sectors and economic resources. And to promote sustainability development must explicitly include issues of adaptation and mitigation of climate change. And the last is promote the ability of both to work synergistically. So, of course, how it works, I try to jump into the not only the major that are included in the National Action Plan for Climate Change Adaptation must be shared through the other instruments to support their implementation. So the existence of assessment of the need of adaptation, mitigation, and technology, which is essential and accessible. So I think will facilitate the answer to the question of funding needs. So the last is I try jump into the recommendation first that the issue of bureaucratic coordination communication should be solved through the use of technology. For example, the existence of climate change dashboard, which can be monitored and utilized by all stakeholders, and then accelerating the space in urban communities with climate resilience, and then, of course, therefore, the existence of climate change activity dashboard are crucial and urgent. Okay. So that's why we have to urge the national government to have adopt or create the dashboard of climate change. Thank you.
Thank you, Pak Aris. Sorry to cut you off. It was an interesting input, but we're going to the next sessions. Thank you so much. And we're going to the next session, which is going to be the signing ceremony. See you in a bit. Thank you to all the speakers.